Transfers used to be simple. You want a player, you call his club, you agree a fee. But that's not how the Sharks do it anymore. Now it's whispers to agents, secret talks with the players' camp, cheeky public comments from presidents, and media leaks designed to turn a man's head, all while his club watches it happen in real time. Today, we're naming names, 7 players under contract, being tugged at, whispered to, and openly courted by clubs who have absolutely no shame about it. And stick around to the end, because the last story on this list went from whispers to a done deal just last night. If you support these clubs, hold your players tight. Let's get into it. We'll start in Munich because what Real Madrid are doing to Bayern right now is borderline criminal. The target? Michael Olise. Madrid want him so badly they've stopped hiding it. Jose Mourinho personally flew to the German Cup final just to watch him from the VIP box. Then Florentino Perez stood up in public and promised a signing worth €150 million, a player, in his words, who doesn't play in the Premier League. Guys, everybody in football knew exactly who he meant. And Bayern, they're furious. Their president came out swinging, saying, and I quote, "Florentino Perez can save himself the effort." The problem is, reports in France claim Olise himself fancies the move and his contract has no release clause, so this becomes a pure staring contest. And Madrid's neighbours are playing the exact same game. Just ask Atletico about Julian Alvarez. Barcelona need a striker, and they've decided the perfect man is the star of their city rivals project. They lodged a bid of around €100 million, and Atletico didn't just reject it, they went to war. The club put out one of the angriest statements you'll ever read, accusing Barcelona of, word for word, calculated leaks, fake news and constant disrespect. Imagine being so blatant that a club has to publicly tell you to stop. But here's why Atletico are really sweating. Reports say Alvarez's own wish is to join Barcelona. And now that Barca have wrapped up their winger business, journalists in Spain confirm Alvarez is their next priority target. The Spider is under contract until 2030. Simeone has called him his best player, and yet every day the noise gets louder. This is how modern stealing works. You don't break in through the door, you get the player to open it from the inside. Now over to England because Arsenal have learnt that trick too. Their target, Newcastle's captain Bruno Guimaraes. Newcastle's heartbeat, the man who's carried that midfield for 4 years since arriving from Lyon. And what's happened? Fabrizio Romano confirmed Arsenal have already agreed personal terms with him. And even worse for Newcastle, Bruno has reportedly told the club he wants to move to London. Read that again. The captain has agreed his contract with a direct rival before the clubs have even settled on a fee. Newcastle are doing everything to hold the line. They rejected an opening bid of $55 million. They value him at £90 million or more, and they're trying to throw a club record contract at him to change his mind. But be honest, after watching Isak, Gordon and Tonali all walk out the door for big money, Newcastle fans know exactly how this movie usually ends. When the player's head is turned and the buyer has deep pockets, not for sale, has a habit of becoming every man has his price. And speaking of North London mischief, Tottenham are running their own operation across town, and Manchester City are the victims. The target, Savinho. This is the second summer in a row Spurs have come for him. Last year, City said no, slapped a new contract on him until 2031 and thought that was that. But then, Savinho barely played, roughly 1,500 minutes all season, and Tottenham smelt blood. They're back, talks are reportedly advancing around £60 million, and this time the player is said to be keen. His manager at Spurs is even talking him up to teammates already. And this is a lesson in how persistence pays in the transfer market. You knock once, you get rejected. You wait a year, the player gets frustrated, and suddenly the same door creaks open. City more than doubled their money on a winger they signed for about £31 million. But make no mistake, this is a player being lured away, one whisper at a time, by a club that simply refused to take no for an answer.
Well, you've asked for it and we've finally delivered. Relive the glory days with the most iconic designs in football history. Whether you're a fan of classic club colours or legendary international strips, we've got something to ignite your nostalgia. Perfect for match days, casual wear or adding to your collection. Shop the new retro range now at goal90.shop. Massive discounts await.
Now for the most disrespectful one of the lot. Liverpool, look away because Juventus are all over Allison. one of the best goalkeeper of his generation, still Liverpool's #1, under contract until 2027. And what did Juventus do? They reportedly agreed a 3-year contract with Allison's camp, salary, length, the lot, and started working towards what was described as a smooth separation from Liverpool. All of this before agreeing anything with the club itself. And when it came to actually paying, reports say their opening offer was as low as €7 million. €7 million for Allison! Liverpool's stance is simple, he stays. But there's Saudi interest floating around too, with his old goalkeeping coach now working at Al Hilal and reportedly pushing for a reunion. So the club is fighting whispers on 2 fronts for a keeper who turns 34 in October. The deal gets done behind your back, and you're the last to hear about it. And nobody does that move better than Chelsea. Ask Sunderland about Granit Xhaka. Rewind to the final day of last season. Newly promoted Sunderland, led by their captain Xhaka, beat Chelsea to secure European football in their first season back. A fairy tale. So, what did Chelsea do? Their new boss, Xabi Alonso, Xhaka's old manager from that legendary Leverkusen season, decides he wants his general back. And Sky Germany reported Xhaka and Chelsea reached a full verbal agreement on personal terms before a single phone call was made between the clubs. Then came the insult. Chelsea's opening bid, £8 million for a captain with 2 years left on his deal. Sunderland were reportedly livid, branding the offer disrespectful, and their position is simple. The captain is not for sale at any price a calculator can produce. But Xhaka is 33. This might be his last big contract, and the manager calling him is one he'd run through walls for. Sunderland are holding on with both hands, but if you think that's Chelsea's boldest move, wait until you hear what they pulled off last night. Because the final story on this list is the one where the tapping up backfired spectacularly. This is how Arsenal lost Morgan Rogers. Rogers might be the best value story in the Premier League. Signed from Middlesbrough for around £16 million, now one of the most complete attackers in England. And for months, Arsenal thought they were being clever. They made him their #1 forward target, and reports say they made significant advances in discussions with his representatives long before ever formally approaching Villa. Except Villa knew exactly what was going on, and they were having none of it. Villa sent a message to the whole market, not for sale, and if you insist, it starts at £130 million, a British record. Arsenal hesitated. They haggled. They thought the whispers had bought them time. Big mistake. Because while Arsenal were playing games, Chelsea walked straight through the front door. Last night, David Ornstein revealed Villa accepted a £117 million bid from the Blues, a Chelsea club record, with Xabi Alonso personally getting involved to convince Rodgers. So, Arsenal ended up with the worst of both worlds. They annoyed Villa with the behind-the-back approach, and they still lost the player, their #1 target, at a rival overnight. That, guys, is the tap-up backfiring in real time. Sometimes the club you're trying to rob is watching you the whole time, and they'd rather sell to anyone else than reward you for it. So there you have it. 7 players, all under contract or whispered to, courted and tempted, and one of them already gone before the whispers even stopped. That's the reality of the modern game. A signature means less and less when presidents make public promises, agents take secret calls, and personal terms get agreed before clubs even speak. Which of these players do you think actually leaves this summer? And has your club ever had a star stolen like this? Drop it in the comments, smash that like button, hit subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a video. Catch you in the next one.